to be sharing?
Well, thanks so much for having me this morning. So yeah, I came to it and I at first didn't have a big product testimonial. I actually, when I understood what the product was and how unique it was, I just was thinking of all these people that needed to learn about it. And so I kind of jumped in that way. That said, 3 years later, I fell all the way down my stairs and I recovered so much faster than I normally would because I was 58 at the time. And you don't recover that fast at 58 when you fall all the way down 16 stairs. So that was kind of a big like, oh my gosh. But previous to that, I'd just been sharing it and people had wonderful outcomes. But that said, my favorite piece actually of ASEA is the community and the fact that, you know, I'm a health coach, and so I'm committed to helping people have optimal health in whatever way, whether it's physical, financial, whatever it is they want. I just want to see people improve their lives. And the whole company is on that same path. They truly are interested in helping others. And so that's part of my favorite part is they're not just here to transform people's health, which this product totally does, but they're also here to form people's lives, whether it's the physical life or like the financial, because when you can help somebody like earn their own income, and I see this a lot for women who maybe haven't been, earning anything, they've been stay-at-home moms, they get a sense of confidence, value, they just feel good about being able to contribute to their family. And for me, I mean, I was, able to buy a top of the line dishwasher with my earnings, and that was kind of cool. It made me feel really good. And so that's part of the, thing I love, but it's also just the friendships that I've made and meeting people around the world and actually getting to meet them in person at the conference. And have these people that are now your best friends, and you find out that you're just, peas in a pod, and we're all on the same path of truly helping others change their life, no matter which way it is, like I said, physically or financially. And just growing themselves as people, which is a really cool thing to see. So that's kind of my favorite part of it.
Risa, I just want to ask you to come back to, though, you mentioned that 3 years later you fell down the stairs. Did it take you that long to actually see something from ASEA, or did you see something sooner?
I had some little things I saw, like I wasn't sore after workouts. And I had some allergy things go away, and the gel, I had all sorts of different things with the gel. I didn't have like a big thing. I had sort of little things along the way that I noticed.
Mm-hmm. So were you doing this for prevention? I mean, what was your goal? If you didn't have anything major, what made you decide that it was valid? I mean, I know you said that you thought it made common sense, but, what was your goal for this?
Just I'm always into optimal health. So I'm always looking at what can I prevent? And so when I understood what the technology did, it's like, okay, if I can get more of my cells repaired and turned over, then maybe I will prevent things from happening. So that was my initial thought. And for both my husband, because we're very much into preventing anything. So anything else I can add in that can help me do that, I'm all about that.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much. And you actually shared quite a lot of different things there. You shared more than simply just, the benefit of what we have here for the technology and for our health. But for you, it was a much bigger experience that's kind of broadened out. But really I think what I heard from that is that, to you, just sharing and helping other people is really a motivation anyway, just helping yourself and helping other people.
Yes. And I
Cool.
love that I have now a whole community of people that want to do that as well.
That's fun.
That's cool.
All right, we're going to move over. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to move over to Corinne, who's down in North Carolina. Let me find you here, Corinne. There we go. Let me add you to the spotlight. Good morning. If you can unmute, that would be great. And Corinne is a newer user to ASEA. And she's journeying through her experience, right? Corinne, how long have you been using the product now?
I think I'm in my 5th month.
Is it that long already? Gosh.
I think so, yeah.
All right.
Most
Sorry.
of, here's my list, Carolyn.
Oh, wow, you've got a whole long list.
I'll try to go, make it brief, but
All right, so I'm gonna spotlight you so that we can focus on you, and let's the people enjoy your story. Go ahead.
Originally I came into ASEA to see if I could get some help for my knee, which I'm trying very hard to avoid knee surgery. And while that's happening, I've had so many surprises that I didn't expect. I had just accepted these things as part of my aging journey. But and about the first 2 weeks, I had a lift in my mood, which I have a tendency toward being depressed and anxious. And I noticed that had lifted. I had an ongoing hate affair with shingles that popped up here and there. And since starting ASEA, I've not had any of that. And that had been with me for at least 17 years, once a month or once every 6 weeks. I have noticed that my hair is thicker and no longer falling out. How can I say this? This is a delicate one, but I've had digestive issues that for the last 2 years have kept me very aware of what time of the day I can leave the house. And suddenly I find that, yes, I can do that at 9 a.m. I'll be there. I don't have to be a prisoner to my house anymore until my digestive tract gets straightened around for the day. I've had 2 or 3 times that I felt I was catching a cold or some kind of a virus. And with that, I'm sure it's a combination of drinking the molecules and using the Renew 28 on my sinuses. I've been able to keep it from getting severe, and within about 4 days, I feel better. I don't have that 2-week, 3-week ongoing virus in my body. I'm sleeping better. I have more energy. I have more stamina. I have had loss of my taste and smell for whatever reason, probably just aging stuff that has been going on for about 5 years. And I've noticed it's gradual, but both of those are returning. I'm starting to surprise myself by, what is that smell? Either someone's cologne or something that's cooking. I can now smell it. And as I'm eating, I'm enjoying food again because I can taste it. So all of these have been surprises. And there are others. I was prone to little heart palpitations here and there. I don't notice those anymore. My knee is getting better. It's a slower process than the other things, but I'm just I'm the poster child. So.
Wow, that's amazing. Let me just pull you back in there. I want to chat with you for a second. So, that is such a long laundry list, right? And normally, wouldn't one tend to think that seems too good to be true?
Yes, yes.
Is that how it's felt for you?
Yes, absolutely. It's like, is this placebo? Am I imagining it? And no, I really don't think so. These are very real. I don't reach for that bottle of Xanax in the morning because I already feel good when I get up. I'm not anxious. I'm not dreading whatever is going to church. I have big time problems in a crowd of people. But I'm feeling much more confident and secure, and I don't know. It's working.
That's wonderful. And that's really all from the liquid, correct? The Redox liquid. You've been using that in the gel.
Yeah, those things I'm thinking probably yes, but I do use a lot of Renew 28 as well. Yeah. None of this is. I've not started using the
cell performance ones.
Cell performance yet for myself.
Right. So just to wrap up here, you mentioned that, you're often anxious and kind of overwhelmed and you don't like crowds. Has this improvement in your health changed your quality of life?
Absolutely. absolutely. Yes. I just feel more comfortable in my skin. I just don't have that. I can sit with a group of people and not be wondering how can I make an early escape. That's
Yeah. So if someone's thinking of investing in themselves there, how would you put a price on the value of what you've got from that case of liquid?
oh wow. I don't know that I could put a price on that. Um, it's. I mean, they aren't called amazing molecules for nothing. It's amazing. It's
Mhm.
amazing. That's the only word.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And yeah, we hope that your knee will eventually catch up, right? And here's that thing, right? We come
Yeah.
with one thing, but something else might change first. And so part of what we're going to suggest to you is that you do what we invite everybody to do, is to benchmark everything about your health, because we don't know what's going to change first. And you've had a really remarkable change with being able to get out of the house and not be held hostage by a gut issue, which can be completely debilitating for people.
Exactly. It was.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And obviously we hope that, eventually your knee is going to complete its journey so that you don't have to have that operation, which is really not helpful to the body. I know you have also you're starting to use the cell performance within your family,
Yes.
and seeing, and just for those not, I know in the Singapore group, they're not there yet using these products, but could you just take the 15, 30 seconds to encapsulate one experience you've already seen with the mind and the energy, right?
Yes, my 17-year-old grandson, who is a junior in high school, has been having trouble concentrating and getting his work done. And his mother shared with me that she was very concerned as to what route to take with him, because she was not having any luck getting him to study, to finish his work, to do his testing. And I suggested that we try the cell performance. And the first day he used the mind, and he had a much better day in school. And the second day we gave him a combination of the mind and the energy, and he had a fantastic day. And he told me on the phone when I asked him about it that he probably hasn't felt that focused in school in the last 2 years. So he's having great results, and it looks like he's going to be able to finish his junior year on time and be a senior. He's very pleased. His mother is ecstatic, and I am so pleased that the timing of it was perfect. So
Couldn't be better. And there's another example of the fallout that we have when we've got health challenges and how much they affect our life, and look at what that's going to mean for him. Isn't that exciting?
yeah,
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come this morning and share those amazing molecule stories that you have there. I'm going to move back over, and I want to share with you some slides. I want to talk about the health technology and the stories about why you're hearing what you're hearing with those molecules. Let me just share a screen here, and I want to talk about the advances in health technology as a whole, and why this is the signature. This redox signaling is the signature of our health. And give you some kind of context for the implications it can mean, as you've already heard some really pretty dramatic, broad examples. And why is it that Corinne can see everything from knees to guts to how she feels to all sorts of things going on in just one technology, which always seems pretty unique. I want to say, let's go back to the future for a moment. If we all know that intellectually, we know that we're going to change as we get older. But I don't know that we can necessarily really appreciate what that might look like for each of us. And of course, for each of us, it's going to look different. But, if we look at the fact that statistics are telling us that 98% of people say that they hurt, 87% of people say that they have fatigue. Karen was one of them. All right, 20 to 30% of people are actually saying that they have foggy thinking, with 1 in 9 people by the time we're 45 actually talking about poor memory. That's pretty young. Maybe you're not that age and you're not thinking that you're going to feel the effects of aging at the age of 45, but it's actually starting younger than that, and we're going to talk about why. So if you could go back to the future, if you could go back a decade or 2 decades or whatever that might mean for you, before you experience the aging that you see now, what would you want to do differently if you knew that you could actually impact the outcome of that future? Well, let's talk about what controls our health and maintains our wellness, which is this built-in system called redox signaling molecules. Back in the 90s, the late 90s, these 3 gentlemen were awarded a Nobel Prize for discovering and establishing the first redox signaling molecule. They've been looking at them since the 60s, but science had machines couldn't really identify what they were, and they thought they were useless. These 3 gentlemen, by the time they were able to dial down and see much more closely, identified something called nitric oxide and its benefits for cardiovascular health. This actually opened up in 1998 and really propelled this whole arena of health science. And so we now have the Society for Redox Biology and Medicine that is propelling millions and millions of studies on what these signals do, because they're in every single cell of the body. And that might give you a chance to connect the dots when I just say that they are in every single cell of the body. So therefore, why is it that Karen can see so many diverse benefits from one thing? Because what we're doing is working on that one thing in every single cell. Where does it all begin? Well, I said they had to have machines that could really dial down, and they had to be able to get to look at the mitochondrial function of every single cell. We have hundreds and hundreds, if not millions, of mitochondria in different cells throughout the body, and they are like the little energy pack. They produce this thing that we may well be familiar with, ATP, which is the energy for metabolism. If we don't have energy, literally nothing else is going to happen. We don't function. Same thing if you can't turn on the car and get that engine rolling and get the electrical sparks moving, that car is really useless. It's just going to sit there. But these things that they couldn't see back in the 80s and finally could see in the 90s are called reductants and oxidants. This is the redox. This is the thing that gets spun off in that production of energy. And so they are being made every second of the day in the human body. We came into the world because of a redox molecule, and we'll actually go out of the world when we stop manufacturing enough to supply the energy for our body to do what it needs to do to keep us alive. So they're really important, totally essential. Well, what do redox molecules do? What does redox signaling do in the human body? And we know it does a number of really important foundational things. It activates our genes. It keeps the genes signaling to ensure accurate outcome of our DNA. In other words, we want every conversation to be accurate. Maybe you know someone whose genes don't activate and have a great conversation because you can see the outcome through the generations. Maybe there's a health challenge that runs through your family. That's an example of those genes passing on incorrect information generation after generation. So keeping and activating our genes in a really healthy way is fundamental if we want to be healthy. It actually starts to turn off at around the 30s. That's when our metabolism begins to dip and change direction for every single one of us. It's part of why we start to see that aging take place, and we begin to feel it after 35. It does a number of other things. It protects all of our healthy cells, but it also detects cellular damage, and it helps to locate where that damage is and to repair or replace unhealthy or damaged cells. In other words, it helps us do what we think of as healing. So it's protecting those healthy cells and make sure that they have a really good lifespan. It does something called adaptive response. What is that? That's really the way our innate immune system can respond to the threats that surround us, either viral threats, bacterial threats, environmental toxins, anything that is going to cause a problem and put us out of balance. Stress, for example. And I think that's something we can all say we've certainly seen over the last 2 years. Cellular communication at its most foundational, it is a cell phone signal for every cell. So it helps the cells communicate, instructs them as to what they're supposed to do, and it coordinates all of the activities of the body. So in other words, without these things, we would really be kind of chaotic and really wouldn't have a good health. Now, all of what we talk about in the body is frequency. And that is what redox is. It is energy, it is frequency. And all cells vibrate, if they're healthy, between 40 and 400 hertz. We're changing all the time. Healthy cells have this kind of region of about 62 to 72 hertz. Now, it's interesting that MIT have done some studies just to look at the fact that cells vibrate as we talk about these vibrational signals, and they can disclose when we have health challenges. Why is that? Because those frequencies drop. And when they drop beyond that region of 62, we start to become vulnerable to disease. And so it's important that we keep those frequencies up and healthy. The higher the frequencies, the more vibrant we're going to be. So redox is the same as a healthy cell. It is going to function on giving energy back to those cells and keep them at a really peak performance. Raw organic foods also donate lots of high energy frequency, which we don't get if we have loads of cooked foods or processed foods in our diet. So we're going to look at losing the power. I said that we start to see things change. Why is that? Well, redox actually begins to drop off at 1% per year, starting at the age of around 15, around puberty, which is pretty early, right? And so like those battery cells, really we get weaker with energy. We have less power in our cells as we get older. And so we become more vulnerable to those challenges of ill health and disease. Now, here, when we look at what we can do with this, we're going to talk about how we can repower and resupply and recharge those batteries and really push us back into that space where Karen was giving an example of how much healthier she's feeling as a result of having more power in her cells. So recharging our batteries, we can do with something called redox signaling supplement. And this is a development that came about after all these studies said, you know, the one thing that we can't do is actually stabilize these things outside the human cells. They're really volatile. We make them all the time, every single second. They're being dispensed in the cells to go work on those unhealthy cells, and we recharge and keep giving more and more supplies. Well, the science that came behind this was something that pivoted off of 10 years of patented research. And finally, they were able to look at how do you actually take these signals and move them from a 30-minute lifespan, which is what all the science is based on, and why we know so much about what they've been able to do with these signals, and actually move it to something that was now 12, then 15, and now 18 months in life. When you move to something that's actually that volatile, but now available to us in a 30 or 15 to 18-month lifespan, we can now start to do something that means we don't have to be part of one of those clinical studies. And the result is this ASEA redox signaling supplement. It's the world's first and only source of stabilized redox signaling molecules. Why do I say the first? Because this took place in 2009, came to market as being the first opportunity to be able to use this in our life on a daily basis. We're still the first company to market because the technology behind it is patented and can't be reverse engineered. So to this point, we're over 11 years into the market and nobody else has managed to do what we've done. But this is the groundbreaking way that you and I on a daily basis can help to recharge our batteries and help the body really function in a much better way. So we can improve our communication. So what we do know that this is really the most powerful way to do anti-aging and athletic performance. It's a breakthrough in that area. So we're going to amplify our cellular communication and keep our cells vibrating in health, but also be able to supply this detection process, this kind of inner doctor to go find where we've had challenges and be able to open up those conversations and get that working again. So we start to see changes. Now, a lot of people, if you go out onto Google and not Google Scholar is where you actually see the research behind redox. That's in the 2 to 3 million and more in published studies there. But if you go to Google Scholar, Google itself, that's just a search engine. It's not a research engine, and you will see a lot of very misleading information. I know because I did that myself, and you'll see a lot of things that will say, and we'll talk about the base ingredients that we start with in this 3.5-day patented process. What is that? It is saline. It is salt water, right? You, me, we're all made of saline. We don't exist without it. Why do they give you a saline drip when you go into hospital? Because that's what feeds our cells, and that's what the mitochondria uses to create ATP and the redox. And so the scientists had to start with the same ingredients. And so we take the baseline of sodium and chloride, hydrogen and oxygen, and we break those molecules apart and we reconfigure them and end up with redox certified molecules. You'll see on the right is the label that is actually on every single bottle here. Why is that important? Because if you do look at the ingredients, you're going to see the starting ingredients. And so that's why people get very confused and they say, well, it's only salt water. Well, we start with a little bit of salt and we start with a lot of water. And through this patented process, an electrical process, the salt is there to be able to change pH and help the electrical processes break those bonds and recreate what our cells do in a nanosecond, but it takes us 3.5 days. So for those of you who are wary of salt, because you might be saying, well, I'm on a sodium restricted diet, just to let you know that by the time we finish this 3.5-day process, there's actually very little salt left. If you're consuming an average quantity, which is about 4 ounces a day, that's the equivalent of the sodium in a half a carrot. So I doubt that there is anyone who has a doctor who says, well, you're on a sodium restricted diet, so you can't eat carrots. That doesn't happen. So it is safe for everyone. And what you have is third-party validation here by Bioagilytics that what you're buying is not the salt and water, but it is the certified redox signaling molecules. These are these active stabilized molecules. You'll see all of the verifications that we have. This is made in a GMP and FDA registered facility. There's one facility in the world because we protect our patented process. And so that creates all of the redox for the world supply. And from there, it gets shipped direct to every consumer around the world in 33 different countries. So we have an amazing product. And I will just tell you also that clinical studies on this show us a number of unique things, which for me as a clinician are really important. One is that it's totally non-toxic. You could drink everything in that bottle on a daily basis. I doubt that you'd need to, although the sicker we are and the more challenged we are, the more redox we tend to need than if we're just doing preventative work. But you can drink the whole bottle. It's not going to hurt you at all. You can't be allergic to it because I said we're producing these molecules all the time that we speak, as are, interestingly, pets and our plants. And there's loads of stories about why the pets love this, for example, or why our plants do well. But I think the most important thing, if you're on medication, is to know that this is non-toxic to medication. It's transparent. So in other words, you're not going to even notice, it's not going to interfere with any medication that you're using. So in other words, it's totally safe and it can't hurt us, which I think is amazing, because even though I've worked for 20 years in the field of nutrition, nutritional products, as much as they can be wonderful, herbs do interact with medications. And so we have safety concerns. Here, this is the one and only thing that I am able to safely give to everyone and know that it's not going to interfere with your medication. This is the facility that I mentioned, and you're looking at the different staging processes that it goes through as it moves through these different frequencies that are put in there to break apart these bonds and create these phenomenal, amazing molecules, as Karen said. By 2016, we're actually seeing that this redox signaling molecules and technology is actually being talked about, but in the context of being one of 5 emerging technologies that will shape our future. The other technologies are research. They actually weren't a specific product, but redox signaling actually talks about us here because to this day, we are still the only company who has stabilized, and it talks about how this new technology is emerging that allows us to insert, to drink healthy redox signaling molecules, put them back into our body and help us repair and replenish our aging cells. So we have the potential here to change every single cell in the body, which is really a phenomenal way to go. So what can redox, the robust redox signaling system, do if it's in our body and it's robust? You know, and when we're robust, if we think about it, that's when we're young, because we have a robust redox signaling system. We aren't beginning to lose them until that puberty point. So things begin to change as we lose them. So a robust system, when it's working well, means it's going to help us naturally. The system is going to naturally strengthen the immune system to identify and strengthen healthy cells. We talked about protecting healthy cells and repair the damaged cells. It's going to help us to amplify the communication of cells across the body when it's robust. It's going to be able to activate inert and dormant cells that also, especially with age, begin to increase. And it's why we see so many challenges. These are the things called senescent cells, and they do some weird and very unhealthy cells as we get older. So we really want to combat that. And we help our cells perform to their true potential. Karen's beginning to see that, and she's moving backwards in how her body is actually functioning. We help to eliminate, the redox helps to eliminate toxic waste from our cells. Our cells should be taking nutrition in and eliminating the debris of just daily living. And so that often stalls out. And when we begin to have challenges, whether stressed, maybe we're pretty stationary, maybe we don't drink a lot of water, we're going to be struggling in that cellular respiration to get things moving. So a robust system is going to keep that active. We can also help to make sure that redox will strengthen our DNA and protect us against oxidative stress. It increases our metabolism. It keeps us, as we think about it, it's giving us loads of energy. And so if it's robust, we're going to be able to keep that metabolism at peak performance. We're going to talk about how we can actually shift microcirculation, specifically with an application. We're going to talk about the fact that with gene regulation, we're going to make sure that we regulate things like hormonal system to be at its peak vitality and wellness. And so basically we affect every single system in the body when redox is at its peak. We're also going to talk about how we elevate those internal antioxidants. That's what redox is about. It's that antioxidant production in response to a signal for a damaged cell. So when we power with redox, we can do this in many ways. And sometimes we can interrupt those challenges quickly, and sometimes it's going to take the body time to progressively go through that. But it's going to be different for each one. So we recharge with the redox. That is pure redox. We are going to be able to drink it on a daily basis, resupply ourselves with what we're missing, and gradually just sit back and watch what the body does with it, because your story would be very different from mine or from Corinne's. And we can also use the topical gel, which I love. This is the product that actually made me pay attention to it in 2016. And I talked about the fact that 97% of people talk about the fact that they hurt. This is an amazing product. It's actually designed as our anti-aging skincare, and we get as much as a 16% increase in skin cell renewal. So we can really power the way that we look and feel, but we can also do things in our clinical studies that show us in 28 days, we're already impacting microcirculation. If you have something that hurts, I want to challenge you to get hold of this if you haven't used it and apply it in a really interesting way. If you have something that hurts, whether it's a stiff joint or a mobility, whether it's just soreness in the muscles or restriction in a joint, for example, check that out and see how you would rate it from a 0 to a 10, or a 1 to a 10 at least. 1 obviously would be pretty mild, but 10 would be really severe. And I want you to take the gel, which is the same as liquid, and simply shake it up, because it does kind of separate as it sits. It has an inner clay in there. You can see that it's totally clear. And I want you to think about applying it to wherever it was. If it's your hands, for example, I would say apply it to one of the hands if both of them is very stiff, and do a comparison. Rub it all over that. Of course, you will get some on here, so that might change a bit, or somebody else could apply it for you to a hand in particular, but apply it to whatever is hurting, and do it 3 times in 5 minutes. wait 5 minutes, and then go back and check and see what you see, whether it changes. I will tell you that this was what I did with all of my patients, and I did it because Dr. Silverman had said, try this on 9 out of 10 people and build your belief about how quickly can redox actually impact us when we put it where it needs to go, help something start to talk better, and then watch the outcome. I actually saw universal change. It didn't matter whether people were really uncomfortable because they were at a level 8 or a 9 or a 10, and they shifted down to a 2 or a 1 or even a 0, or whether they were at a 7 and they moved to a 6 in those 10 minutes. There was a change that took place because we were helping that conversation open up again. And really, the body is powered by redox. So what it does with it is to show you how it can restore some conversation and make a change. Powered by redox are these new products that Corinne mentioned with the mind for the things that we mentioned. You know, people suffer with things like fatigue or foggy thinking or anxiety or overwhelm. And if you've got an open mic there, I'd love you just to mute that out, please. And we are able, by using the nutrient supports, to actually power redox signals within the cells that are targeted. So now we can actually target very quickly using powered by redox things like energy and mind and mood. And we also can now power by redox using those ingredients an advanced skincare system, which pivots around the Renew 28. This is pure redox, and the other things actually power signals that help us do those things that redox does. Protect the cells, you know, work on environmental damage, repair the cells much faster, turn them over much quicker. And so we see different outcomes. So I want to take you to the going back to the future when we talked about the 98% of people hurting or fatigue or foggy thinking or poor memory or stress or depression. Anxiety, you know, those are the things that can definitely be targeted. So the key to health is refilling our supply against the sands of time, being able to boost what we start losing when we get younger by drinking on a regular basis. But we can, as I said, address those challenges by using our cell performance products with the energy, the mind, and the mood, and the focus. So we have ways to do this, but through the nutrition. Pure redox is not nutrition. And those are signaling molecules. And here, the science of what we're working on is this breakthrough in how we can take targeted nutritional ingredients that specifically lock onto cells and activate very focused outcomes. So we can do this in a very quick way. These are amazing powders that you can put in water. You can mix with other things. You can put them into smoothies. You can even make them warm if you want to. But within about 15 minutes, people are actually beginning to feel the outcome of a powered by redox reaction. The same is focused with the skincare products, and here we have an ever increasing amount of redox, powered by redox benefit. As you see from left to right, the actual packaging is designed to change color so that it kind of tells us how we're building and layering on these powered by redox benefits for the skin. This is a phenomenal skincare product line. It supports that skin barrier function, more resilient skin, maintaining balance and hydration. I would say that that is one of the key things that everybody's seeing, reducing the look of the fine lines and wrinkles for youthful skin and protecting the skin from those environmental stresses that can cause us with dry skin. So that is an amazing way to do it. And then we can complete the cellular health by these targeted whole food, organic, non-GMO and vegan products. Now, omega is not vegan because it does come from the fish for particular reasons of sustainable sourcing. But these are all the most amazingly complex source of organic nutrients, the things that we need to add back in because we can't get that in our diet. And so they support everything from micronutrients, superfoods, enzymes, great oils, things that help us cognitively, things that help the skin, things that improve our biome and our immunity, and complete this whole process of being able to put together both sides of the picture. So charging ourselves can take anything from 7 to 90 days or more. Karen's seen things on her journey. If you think about the fact her knees are taking longer than the 90 days, but lots of other things have been changing along that way. And so know that your journey is going to be your unique experience. We do have a money back guarantee on the product. So I always say, start with at least 2 cases, get saturated, refill and recharge those batteries quicker in that first month, because you're likely to see a lot more make a change. But benchmark your health and really make sure that you drink enough, and work with the person who invited you here, because they have a lot of experience, both personally and collectively, that we can help you work through your personal journey to get to where you want to get to. I wanted to show you the powered by Redox outcome. You know, we think of aging as being left to right, looking better, feeling better when we're younger, and feeling and looking worse as we get older. And some of it may not look quite so bad, but you know, we see changes because of aging. But what I want to show you is this: when it's powered by Redox, we're actually reversing things. If you look at that picture on the right-hand side, that's Rosie at 84, and 7 weeks later is the second picture here. This was 7 weeks into it. She didn't think it was doing much until her son showed her the photograph. This is her at 87, and this is her at 91. So when I say powered by Redox, she's refilling her supply and really changing things from the inside out as well as the outside in, and certainly the only product that I know that can do this. I'm going to give you 2 other resources if you'd like to learn more than you just heard this today. Healthy Self is a Facebook group. We actually are at about 197,000 people in there. That's a great place to go and look at all the experiences people have. If you're not a Facebook person, go to Real Redox Results, and you can click on any of these experiences, and that will take you to video testimonials from live calls that have been taken place over the years. GettingYoungerClub.com is David's great contribution to us. So this is a huge link to all sorts of resources. Why was this not sold to a pharmaceutical company? You know, you may be asking yourself, why is it on the market in network marketing? That's a great source. Have a look at the tour of the videos here in the FDA facility. Have a look at the Olympic athletes that are using this. If you want to know more about Redox and what it does, you can definitely go here. I'm going to stop the share. I want to invite my husband on. And because I want to just go to 2 aspects of it. You know, this is my other cohort. A lot of people don't get to see him very often. We've been in this industry nearly 30 years, or something like that now. And actually, we got into network marketing. My husband dragged me to an event. And I didn't even realize it was a network marketing event. We got a lot of products and it freaked me out. And I was like, okay, how do I get rid of these? But this was my kind of entree into health and wellness as a whole. Paul, you know, you're a CPA. And as a business person, you get to look at a lot of other people's businesses. And I want to maybe just ask you to take a minute to define, you know, what do you see as the strengths of this? Maybe you could perhaps touch on, you know, why was Verdis Norton, who is our founder, so smart to pick this as the vehicle? You know, why did we not go for a typical brick and mortar business like all the ones that you support? What are the challenges that people have with brick and mortar, especially with what we have in this business that's this product that has never been seen before?
Interesting question, thanks. Think about that answer. What first comes to me about brick and mortar is I don't think that there's a single brick and mortar business that any of us would look at and go, what is that business about? So brick and mortar, we know, you know, whether it's a clothing store or a car showroom or a health shop, the minute we see brick and mortar, so we know what the product's all about. In this case, there's a product with which nobody understands, certainly did not understand it back then. You know, if you went to a metal shop that had all different types of stainless steel and metal rods and all, and they said, come here and buy a car, you get very confused because you're seeing all this material. You see batteries laying around all the place. And you would never think of walking into that brick and mortar building selling reinforcing rods and batteries and cables and cushions and say, yeah, I'll take a car. Well, I think what obviously Bertus and Tyler came across was saying, well, heck, we've got salt water. And, if we throw it into a building and put it on the shelves, is anybody going to come and buy it? And I think they came through a realization, because network marketing was certainly not their background, and it was certainly not their first choice of distribution. Folks should go see a Genesis, as you talked about in Getting Younger Club, and you'll learn why the ultimate decision was, we have to do this through word of mouth marketing.
Is this a better model, for businesses as a whole? What are the difference between traditional business investments and this? I mean, we don't really invest in product here. If we think about it, we're not actually stocking shelves to sell it, are we? Because the company had, the beautiful part about this is, for me as a practitioner, is I would have thousands of dollars of products on my shelf in my practice so that people would buy them on the spot from me. But that was a big investment in knowing what to buy and how long to have it and all the rest of it. I like the fact that the company is responsible here for manufacturing and shipping, and I don't have to do that. But what do you see as a business person about the difference there?
Yeah, another great question. First off, the way I work with my clients and talk about businesses in general and how people approach something, I talk about a two-dimensional aspect, and it's what we see. And I've always approached, well, I can't say always, probably about out of 46 years of doing what I'm doing, probably the first 15, I approached it very two-dimensionally, but it's really a three-dimensional aspect of what's behind everything. So even to your question about where we are today, when I first got involved a bit in network marketing, it was before you and I ever met, and it was selling water systems. And some really good friends of mine, Danny and Gotti, they were into it very, very heavily. And I came over to Gotti's house one day, and they were telling me about this, and they were telling me about the distribution model. And it actually was quite appealing, being able to share passionately with other people things that could help them. And of course, even 30 years ago, and then some, 40 years ago, healthy water was still an important topic. So they walked me out to Gotti's garage, opened up the garage door, and there was probably $25,000 to $30,000 worth of water filters. And I looked at that, and what my first impression was, I can't do this, not interested. So fast forward, as the world has changed in network marketing, the distribution model has stayed the same, but the companies have become much more friendly to the marketplace. And unlike the bricks and mortar stores where you look at a car dealership and there's $17 million worth of cars that are being financed that are sitting on the lot, or a nutritional store with $1 million worth of nutrition, the industry has moved forward to allowing us to be the sales and marketing distribution arm, and not the manufacturing and not the inventory arm. So in our case, we have a major investment to be able to represent this company of $40, which I believe most would agree is slightly better than the $2 million if you wanted to get a McDonald's franchise. So yes, the modeling is the distribution aspect of it allows us in the company to take what is normally a marketing and advertising budget of anywhere from 30 to 60 or 70% of some companies' budgets, and put it into the word of mouth and friends sharing with friends.
Yeah, so that's how, if we're helping to broaden their distribution market, we get those referral checks. And as one of our team says, she believes that there is only one side effect to a seer, and that is that you get a check.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's pivot. When you and I mean, we saw some groundbreaking health challenges for you shift in 2 weeks, which was kind of what got my aha going up like, well, what is this? Why were you suddenly being able to move and breathe adequately where you hadn't been able to do that for 20 years before? And in a short time. So that got me curious, that I love to read and learn. So of course I was deep into the biology books that you're not remotely interested in. And that's a great thing to realize, that it's not important and not necessary to become a biologist to do this, and really is not going to be helpful if you really want to share with people anyway. But when we started to see another dramatic experience from the client that I'd had referred to me, who was autoimmune challenged because of, involved in insect bites and things. And that was another massively huge shift in 30 days that just made no sense to me. You and I made an effort to go to an event. We drove all the way to New Jersey. We live in Virginia. We drove in New Jersey for a day's event, didn't we? Because we wanted to see corporate. They were coming there. We were meeting with Dr. Silverman and other doctors, and we wanted to learn. Talk about that day. We've been in different network marketing companies. I can't say that there, for us, I don't know that we had a bad experience. I can't say. I know that there are companies that are not good. And our last company, which we didn't leave because it was a bad company, we left because I had a major car accident that took me out of life for 2 years entirely. But I will say the strength of this business model is that we continue to get paid year in and year out, even though we weren't working, because we built something.
Oh, sorry. Bye-bye.
Let me just mute them. But so we didn't have an anti-network marketing feel, and we knew what it was to build a business. But why don't you talk about what your takeaway was about this company that differentiates themselves from others?
Right. So first, I think many people in the marketplace itself has objections or concerns or opinions about what network marketing is all about. And without getting into the compensation side and who makes money and who doesn't make money, one of the things that we both experience, even though, as David would say, there's the good, the bad, the ugly, we've not expressed or experienced the ugly side of it. But I can tell what we have experienced is that through over the years, we would go to our conventions, we would go to our regional events, and there were a couple of things that were very noticeable. First off, they really did talk about the successes of people. And actually, not just the successes, but the financial successes, and about the rewards, and about the cars, and about the houses. And you would see the leaders up on stage, and they were pontificating, where they were in their life and where they are now and how great and wonderful they are. And they're very charismatic, and they're really lovely people, and people you want to actually get to know, because if you want to grow in an industry, in whatever industry it is, you want to hang around people who've already been successful. You want to be able to get their energy. And one of the things I think you would agree totally is, as soon as that stage and that event was over and we'd walk out into the halls of that event or into just the general floor to meet with other guests, you'd look around and you would not see those leaders that were up on the stage pontificating how wonderful things were. And all of a sudden, this invisible wall just seemed to exist. So that event you're referring to, we hadn't been in network marketing for a while at that point. And we've been to one event here in Maryland, but what we experienced there was immediately a family environment. We met Karen, we met other leaders of the company, we met crossline folks that were already very successful, and we had the event, and then we had lunch. Everybody commingled. Everybody became part of a family very quickly. They embraced us automatically. And no one came up to us and said, are you guys going to be successful? What do you want to do with this? Are you going to be big? If you're going to be big, we're going to talk to you. We're going to spend time with you. And that was not the case. Everywhere from Karen to Debbie, to David, and others just embraced us and brought us, into their family. And I think that was what you and I said, this is a place that we can actually start to put some roots in the ground again.
To your point, the whole afternoon was spent on personal development, wasn't it? And we walked out and
Oh.
said, this is, I said to you, I feel like I've been to a personal development day, not a network marketing day, because absolutely nobody talked about the checks or the houses or all those glitzy things that I think so many of us dislike about the side of network marketing, right? It's all about the money, whereas this company is just the reflection of its mission to better people's lives and to be a force for good in the world, and people and principles before ego and economics. I mean, they really do live that out. And that, you know, that is that ethos piece that Tyler is so strongly talking about.
You know, it's interesting to hear you say that, because as we've moved down the line in years, some of these phrases we forget about, and the whole idea about, you know, personal development, principles over you know, prosperity and over money. That's what they talked about. They talked about how people were helping people, and it really gave us goosebumps, gave me goosebumps to sit there and listen to some of the leaders that were up there, who we did get to know afterwards, because they came out off the stage and introduced themselves, but how they shared not their growth in the company by their checks by any means, but by telling us the lineage or the relationships of how somebody spoke to somebody who spoke to somebody, and 7 layers down that relationship, a young lady was still here, able to be with her family when the doctors had said a number of years ago she she needed to make other plans for her life. It became, I like the psychology of people. I like knowing where their hearts are. And I think that's a way of looking at what that day was all about, was simply finding that everybody had their heart in the right place.
Right.
I'm going to leave it there. On that one. I get goosebumps thinking about that day, actually, because it really did make a change in our lives. We drove home. It was a good long drive. You know, as you said, you know, for us, it was over a 6-hour drive. And I just love when we talk to folks nowadays and they go, oh, that's event's a half hour away. I mean, that's going to take me an hour. And it's like, okay. And we go back to the fact that it takes $40 to become an affiliate with this company. So what do we have to now invest? And you and I invested, you know, 12 hours of driving and, you know, a day meeting people. And I can tell each and every one of you that the return on that investment is almost unquantifiable.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, and you know, if you're going into any kind of a business, wouldn't you investigate? I mean, wouldn't you put time and effort in? Especially if you're spending a lot more money, I think that's probably part of the problem, is that it doesn't cost much to get into it. So people very often don't take it seriously in what it can produce. But to come back to the fact that everybody does things uniquely. So whether you're here and you're kind of curious because you're just naturally a sharer, if something does something good for you, you're probably likely to tell a friend or a family member. That may be as far as it goes. Or you could be someone who's looking to say, well, you know, this last couple of years has been really challenging, and I'd like to have some more control over my income and my life as a whole. And I'd love to do it with a passion and purpose that actually benefits other people. So it can be any of those things, because there are no must do's in this.
Right.
You know, we all get to craft whatever that looks like for us. And for some people, it's more passionate and more time consuming, because they take it on as their thing that they want to do in life, rather than just wrapping it into the threads of their life.
Yeah, very much so. You know, you asked me earlier about a business and from a business owner's perspective, but I would venture to say that, you know, 95% of the people out there and most people listening to this are not business owners. You know, they are employees if they have a job. And I think what's really interesting about a job, and it's not just over broke word, but in order to get a job nowadays, and it has been for many years, people are encouraged to go spend 4 years in college, and then they go get the job and they do their work And many people want to advance themselves. A lot of people are very happy doing whatever position they've got. And what happens, I think, is that during your work career, you're making friends that you're working with. And at the same point, you want a promotion. You want to do better. You want to make more money. You want to have a little more, fulfillment for yourself. And the only way to get that promotion is you now have to compete with your friends, because promotions at every level of a corporation or of a business, you've got your basic level of all your employees. And then as you make a promotion, which means you're moving into management, there are fewer and fewer employees in the management role. And therefore, if you want to go up management, you actually have to compete with your friends. And you have to find a way to tell your bosses that you're better than somebody else. Network marketing, this industry, allows any and everybody to be as equal or unequal as they want to be. It allows the educated and the uneducated. It allows the people who are fulfilled financially to go out and do something for humanity. It also allows people who've spent their life helping humanity, but struggling themselves, to become more financially independent. So, from an employee point, from an individual's point of view, you don't have to think about the brick and mortar. You don't have to think about HR, human resources. You don't have to think about your payroll. All you have to think about here is, do I want more for me? And do I want the ability to help other people without having to step on anybody's toes?
I think you just described that corporate structure. You described the pyramid, right?
Upper management.
Right.
And we also know, and as you said, I've been a CPA and accountant for over 46 years, that with rare exception, as we move up that management level from lower management to middle management to upper management to the vice president, controllers, the salaries also move in that direction. And, when you look at a major national insurance company, all right, there are no sales agents in your local community that have the hope of making as much as the CEO of that company. It's just not possible. Or the vice presidents or the regional managers, because as much as you're making, they're getting overrides. Where in this industry, of course, again, we can become as unequal as we want to be. We can become as successful as we want to be. And we have many examples within ASEA and other companies that we know, where individuals are making more at one level than sponsors 3, 4, 5 levels above. So in a job, you're told, produce this, I need this done by Friday, get me this done. And then they evaluate how well you're doing. Are you meeting their goals? This industry says, am I meeting my goals? Am I able to fulfill what I want? And if I'm not fulfilling what I want, then it is truly only up to me to better myself and to make the new goals and to be able to reach as high and grab that brass ring on the carousel if you want it. Or you can just ride the horse around the carousel and enjoy simply sharing and helping other people. And your employer at work, who sees you a little more casual, is going to get on your case. He's going to call you into the office and say, why are you not producing 12 of these reports in an hour? You're only doing 7. And there is no excuse, not as far as they're concerned. But we have the ability to do what we want, set our goals, and achieve them, and have the opportunity to talk to virtually anybody in this company. We've done that. We've gone all the way up. We meet, Chuck Funky. What books are you reading today, Chuck, that will help me open up my mind? And they'll answer their emails.
Right. We have a very unique culture, and I think we started out with Risa saying she came for the friendship, right? She's surrounded by people of like minds, and I will say probably for most people that is the biggest thing that they want from this, even if they're not actively building huge networks, but they're just nourished by the community, excuse me, the community that we have. But we have all sorts of possibilities, beautiful examples. I'm going to get to answering some of the questions. I don't see too many in there, but thank you so much for that sharing, which was fabulous.
Thank you, everybody.
Let's stop the recording here and